I think we'll kick it off. It is 9:32. I guess a lot of people have joined. People are continuing to join. So, so we'll start right away. And I'll start by introducing Saket. A lot of you might already know Saket, but Saket is the founder of Return Prime. And Return Prime, as you all know, is one of the biggest apps in the e-commerce SaaS space. It helps brands manage the returns and exchanges very effectively. And obviously, Saket will tell us more about it. But Saket has a lot of experience in building apps and in the e-commerce space. Uh, and Yeah, very excited to hear from you directly, Saket. It would be great if you can give us a 2 to 3 line intro about yourself, and then we'll start right away.
Thank you so much, Aniket. That introduction was really very great. Just to add on to what you said, we have been into this commerce industry from past 5 years, and anything that is commerce, we breathe it. So we started with a mission to revolutionize the way people see returns. While we were into this ecosystem, we understood that there is a huge gap. When people talk about returns, there is a huge gap of perception of how it is actually perceived versus how it should have been perceived. So with that mission, we started building everything around it. And today we believe that we have been able to successfully build something which has actually added value to a lot of merchants. Apart from that,
Awesome.
we have been a lot into SaaS. So we have been talking about micro SaaS applications, and how everything has been into this ecosystem. That is again, connecting with you was a great thing, because at the end of the day, people turning around to do the same sort of bit where they are also trying to create one of the SaaS application to just add the value and empower commerce at any given point. So great to find synergy with you guys.
That's great. Yeah, it's been great working with you as well over the past 2 months, and a lot of merchants are already seeing the value of the combined integration. But if you could talk a bit about Return Prime as well, specifically, what is it that you do? What problem do you solve? And how do you add value to a merchant?
Right. So if you see in this complete ecosystem, so returns have been the most overlooked thing, because at the end of the day, when any business owner build their businesses, right? So they build it from scratch, and while building it from scratch, the most important thing that comes in is your experience that you have created, right? So we saw that there is a huge gap in the return experiences, because people were not understanding the real worth of returns and exchanges throughout the customer journey. So we got into this where we have created our system, which creates an amazing post-purchase experience, because that is where your retention starts. Because when a customer comes in, they buy something, they get hooked up with you because of the experience that you have created, the post-purchase experience. So Return Prime is ideally one of the major post-purchase experience that you have created for your online customers who comes in, who buy stuff, and post that they get connected with you. They can come in, they can raise a request, they can claim their refunds, they can exchange a product, and there is a lot into it. Because again, when I say that returns has been overlooked, people have thought about it as one of the mere forms where customer can just request for a returns. But ideally, it is one of the biggest sales channel that you can have for your retention, because while somebody is there to return something, that is the best moment when you can upsell one of your new products. So that is how Return is completely built. And then again, partners like Live Chat have helped us a lot, because wherever sale is happening, a return will happen, because people
Awesome.
want
Yeah.
the ease of access, right? If they are talking on WhatsApp, they would like to return on WhatsApp, and that is
Yeah.
how everything is planned for us.
Awesome. I think there are a lot of interesting insights to pack there. First, the role of return, not just for that immediate problem, but in terms of the overall retention for the brand, right? And the second, as an upselling opportunity as well. And I think I would love to unpack all of this, but before that, I would want to understand, how did you get these insights, right? How did you actually end up starting Return Prime and develop so much confidence on this idea and kind of get these insights into the pain points of all these merchants?
Right. So initially, when we used to talk to a lot of merchants, while we were developing the idea of what needs to be developed, we used to talk to a lot of merchants, we understood the biggest gap is returns, because it was never properly solved for any of the markets. While we got into the system, it was never properly solved. There were forms, existing forms, where people came and they used to raise requests, but it was not properly solved. So when we got into it, we understood it from the core. We sat with the operation teams of a lot of our merchants, understood the whole flow, what they are doing, and then we actually did a ground reality check with the existing systems which are there in the market. And when we did that, we saw that there are not much apps which are solving a bigger problem. They're not going to going for a bigger cause. It's just they're creating a system for the sake of creating it. And that is how, when we thought that if we want to do something, we want to do it the right way. And that is why, if you'll see, within just 1.5 years, we were able to capture so much merchants, and that too without any sales team. So ideally, Return Prime has only 4 people, and out of
Awesome.
4 people, there is no sales people. We have never done any outbound sales, nothing. It's just we believed in product-led growth, right? So
Hmm.
because when you trust that you have been solving a bigger problem, and when you trust that the system that you have built, it's sufficient enough to solve the problem on its own, at that point of time, you don't need to sell it. People start talking about it, and people start loving your app, right? And then the other problem was, I'm really sorry. So the other problem was when all these apps were in the ecosystem, they were not built in a DIY mode. So ideally, it used to take a lot of operational help to get the setup done from the app developers, where they used to come on a call, they used to do a demo setup, where they used to make them understand how it needs to be done. Whereas ideally, you don't need any dependency when you're using a micro SaaS. When you're using a micro SaaS, it should be easily understandable, it should be simple, it should be reliable, it should be stable. And that is where the challenge was. So we thought, from the very initial merchant who was just starting their app, to one of the merchants who have already scaled to a point where they just need to automate this system. And that is how Return Prime was developed in the initial days. And then probably we have
Awesome.
kept pivoting things into it, and then kept understanding things from our merchant, and did a
Hmm.
couple of reiterations, because again, iterations were very important for us in the very initial stage. We
Hmm.
understood it directly from the merchants, and then we developed it in a way where we don't have to go back and make them understand why this feature has been developed. So Return Prime as a product, it itself defines why of everything. When you do the setup, it will explain why of everything without having any human touch in place.
Hmm. Awesome. I think this is great that you just focused on this one problem, which was a burning pain point, which was such a huge pain point that you have been able to scale without a sales team as well, right? So I would want to deep dive into this particular problem as well. So why does a merchant face this problem of a return? What is the root cause? When in the customer journey do they kind of think about returns, and what are the reasons why they kind of do this?
Right. So if you look at the marketplace model, so ideally,
Yeah.
the e-commerce boom was started with the marketplace models, where a lot of marketplace came in. They started pushing online sales over retail stores, where people
Hmm.
can come in, they can buy a product. They created a whole lot of experience, right? But when this D2C game started, when people started actually investing into D2C online stores, where they started selling directly to the consumers. So a lot of things had to be developed on their own, because a platform can definitely give you one of the features where you can develop your online store. But to develop the rest of the experience, either you have to get it custom built, or you have to rely on one of the micro SaaS apps, right? So the real problem was creating the same experience that people are getting on marketplace. Because if somebody has come to buy something, now let's understand this with an example. If somebody has come to buy something on your online store, right, this is virtual buying. The product is not in front of them, and when the product is not in front of them, there is a huge chance that something might go wrong with the product. Maybe they have thought of the product in a different way, but when the product actually arrived, it was not the same which they thought of, right? So if something like this happens, as a customer, we would never like to be penalized, right? We would never want to be penalized. That is how I'm going to trust any of the store. That is how any user persona is going to be. So to do that, any customer who comes on any online store, they see for the return policy, that how it is, how easy it is going to be, right? And if that process is not easy, they're going to find alternatives for that. They're going to find alternative competitors who are selling the same sort of product, because at the end of the day, the consumer only cares about the product. If they are going to buy it for the first time from your store, they don't have any trust for now. So all they can do is they can just see the experience that is already there, and then probably they decide if they want to do it. And same sort of experience was not there. That this was the bigger problem for the merchants.
Got it. Got it. Awesome. So what is the magnitude of this problem? How big is this of a problem for merchants? Like, what percent of their products might get returned, and like, what kind of metrics does it impact for
So
them?
ideally, if you'll see, it depends on the industry. So if we talk about apparel industry generally see 10 to 15% of returns.
Hmm.
But For the rest of the industry, that might end up between 3 to 7%. So if we talk about consumer electronics, there is 7 to 8% of returns happening in consumer electronics. So let's say, for example, if we are doing 100 orders a day, 7 might come back in these stores. Talking about apparel, 10 might come back in these stores. And if you have 10 unsatisfied customers, that means you are losing 10% of your customers straight away if the experience is not right. So 10% is a huge number where we already know that performance marketing gives you 3% of turnaround at maximum, right? And if you're losing 10% of your customers, then all the CAC that you have involved into acquiring a customer, you have just lost it because of one of the experience that was not there, right? So the magnitude is quite high because returns, I believe, should be a part of every store because that is how everybody's going to trust you. So the magnitude is actually high, and then the problem is also very big.
So, when should brands ideally start thinking about this stuff, about seriously about returns, about having a policy to kind of manage and handle these returns? Or like when is actually the right time in their growth journey for this?
So if you'll ask me, I would say it should start from day one because
Okay.
you cannot think about experience after scaling, right?
Hmm.
So it should always be a priority because let's talk about Apple. Apple did not thought about creating the experience after they were settled in the market, right? Any experience that they have created, correct? And that is why people love Apple. That is why they love the
Hmm.
quality of it, right? So experience matters from day one. Even if you are a smaller merchant, you should start it from day one. And that is why, again, when we were planning Return Prime, we had the thought process that people should start it from day one. So we included a free plan into it to just support the businesses who have just started. So that even if you have less than 5, less than 7, less than 10 returns, you can definitely go on with a free plan and give the same
Hmm.
experience that everybody is giving.
Hmm. Got it. Got it. And for the merchants that you see, like for the ones that do not have return prime, let us say, right, before you guys even came into the market. So what were brands typically doing to solve this returns problem?
So ideally, there were apps. I won't say that there were no apps in the ecosystem before Return Prime was there because you
Mhm.
still see this market is a bit crowded. There are a lot
No,
of apps.
if they are not using apps, for example,
Correct.
in that case, like what is the way to handle this issue?
So there was
Hmm.
a complete manual process before that.
Hmm.
So ideally, if you see,
Okay.
most of the people still what they do is they take returns via email, where they ask their
Okay.
customer to send an email where they can describe the problem, what is happening. They'll analyze the problem. They'll send the details over to the customer. Then the customer will get one of the return labels, which they'll use to send the item back to the merchant. Once it comes back to the merchant, they will just check the item, they'll inspect the item, and then probably they will restock it. Then they will do the refund. So there was a whole manual tedious process behind it.
Okay.
But that was required, so people were doing that, and still
Hmm.
we have still seen that a lot of merchants still does that because they believe this way they'll be able to reduce the return rate. But ideally, it goes other way around sometimes when people see these tedious process where they cannot track it out, where they cannot understand. Because again, just like experience, automation is also a mindset. Whenever anything gets redundant, see,
Hmm.
why was the need of automation there, right? So whenever anything gets redundant, people think about automating it. You always think about automating it because by the time you're doing the same stuff again and again, you could have actually concentrated on acquiring new customers
Hmm.
instead
Got
of
it.
getting into that manual job. I would have
Yeah.
concentrated on I would have worked on my top level funnel so that they can come in, and then probably my system can take care of the retention part
Hmm.
of it, right?
Yeah. 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 Got it. So, so basically, the main way in which you like when return prime comes in for a merchant, right, who was previously doing this stuff manually, like what changes, like what kind of impact are they able to see?
So ideally, there is a huge impact that happened. If you see people using manual system versus automated system, because before Return Prime, people might have been using any other system or maybe one of the
Hmm.
systems which is manual. So in that
Hmm.
case, how it works is, let's say for example, if I am using a manual process, the first thing was I was doing a lot of manual job. So my man hours are decreased. So right now,
Hmm.
people are concentrating more on their sales instead of getting into the operational job. The first thing that
Hmm.
was solved was reduction of man hours. Apart from that, the retention percentage increased gradually because people started getting the experience. They started trusting that.
Hmm.
For example, when we as one of the customers, whatever platform you trust, be it Amazon, be it any other platform, be it eBay, whatever platform you trust, when you order from it, you never get to see the delivery time, that when it will be delivered. You just order and forget about it, that the item is going to come back to me. Because you trust that particular brand. And that is what has happened after using Return Prime. Apart from that, since Return Prime is not a mere form, we are also one of the sales channel where we actually generate revenue for our merchants. Because if you see, when people come to return something, that is where, when I say, that is the point where you have to upsell the right item, right? So we start upselling. We'll give you an example. So what we do is, when somebody says that I want to exchange an item, or somebody says I want to return an item, the first thing we do is we start pushing exchanges, that you should go for a faster replacement.
Got it.
Now, when they want to replace that product, so we start showing different products on behalf of one of the products. So let's say if I have bought a shirt and now I want to return that shirt, so we'll start showing things that they might have browsed, or that is available on the store. We might start showing trousers. We might start showing shirts. We might start showing t-shirts, so that people can rethink about returning the item, and instead they can go on for an exchange. This way you can protect your GMV, and you don't have to do the actual refund, right? So brands have realized more than 25x of what they would have spent on returns by just using Return Prime.
Awesome. That is really interesting, because it is not just about, one thing is obviously about just automating away the manners, but mainly it is about a mindset shift of those people being used more productively into marketing and selling of your merchandise. And the second thing is again like about protecting the GMV at the same time. Okay, instead of actually losing revenue to returns, you can actually convert it into something different, into a product, into into a replacement, as you said, or into even an upsell. And that is very interesting, because in a real store also this happens many times, right? You go and if you have bought something from a store and don't like it, you go and they try to give you store credit, right, which you can use for another purchase, or they try to sell another item for a discount. And that not just saves your revenue, it creates a great customer experience as well, right? Because at the end they had come to buy a shirt, they had not come to return a shirt, right? They still want a shirt. So that is actually a great mindset. That is a very good insight, that it is actually like an opportunity to sell them stuff and protect your revenue, right? And this is actually this is actually a big problem for us as well, because on WhatsApp, a lot of the queries, like around 10% of the queries, are actually about returns, right? And if you look at the root cause, it is that the person actually wanted to buy the product, they actually wanted to solve their need, but the particular thing that reached them, that they are not satisfied with that particular thing, right? And it is an opportunity to have a conversation, in fact, to demonstrate a great customer experience and strengthen your brand. So basically, it is not about it is a bit about the immediate ROI that can be seen, but it is also about the mindset of building a great brand, which, like Apple, like you said, right, where customers really aspire for they buy it for the kind of customer service and the experience that they get along with this, right?
Right.
That
That's
is.
completely true. Because if we put it in another way, so if you see, when a consumer shop online, they not only shop for the product, they actually pay for the fulfillment as well. That is delivery and returns, right? So let's say, for example, if there are two retailers who offer same product, the one which delivers the most convenient experience will secure this. Because at the end of the day, they both are doing the same sort of thing, but one has an amazing experience where people can trust,
Yeah.
and one doesn't have that particular experience. So at any given point, people are going to trust the one who have given the experience. That is why you will see, we have seen on a lot of stores, you will see that we provide free shipping, free delivery, right? On the homepage itself, people use it as one of the badges. They show those badges on the homepage itself, that we are
Right.
giving you free returns, easy returns. So free returns, easy returns, these are just for the sake of customers, so that before they have bought something, because if you see, 76% of the customer actually checks the return policy, and 89% of the customer does not return back if the process was tedious. So they'll not buy back from the same store again. And
Right.
that is where you are losing your customers.
Interesting. So it is all about the mindset to create retention, right? And So basically, do you have any tactics to share based on working with all, based on all the brands that you're working with, right? Have you seen some of the best practices to actually kind of reduce returns in the first place, and then also to kind of reduce cash refunds when people come and ask for returns?
Yeah, definitely. So again, at the end of the day, when we say that we have to protect the GMV, so while you are protecting the GMV, you know that if any customer has bought something from my store once, and if there is a defect or maybe there is any other problem because of which they are returning, that means they still want the product. So when they still want the product, it is great to incentivize your customer while they have come to return. So let's say, for example, if as a customer come to return something, the first thing that we ask our customers to promote is you should always promote store credit over cash refunds. The
Got
store
it.
credit should always be incentivized with some sort of extra credits. So let's say if my product was of $20, I've bought a product of $20, and now I want to return it because there is a defect into it or maybe something else. And when I click on return, so again, the first thing that we'll do is we'll try to convert it into replacement so that you don't have to send the money back. But even if they are not able to, if even if they're not convinced now and they want to return the product back, in that case we start showing that you should get store credit to get 10% extra credit into your wallet,
Hmm.
and then probably
Okay.
you can use the same to buy the stuff. Now people doesn't go for store credit very often. If they know that they have to get the code, they have to remember those codes, and then they'll have to apply it on the checkout. So to solve this process, what we did was we perceived store credit in a different way, because if you'll see, return prime always talks about changing the way people see returns. So what changes are we actually building? So if you'll see, what we did at this place was every store credit that we create is personalized. So let's say if I create one of the store credit for you, if you come to buy
Hmm.
something from my store, and if I have to create a store credit, I might create it Aniket 2022. Now it is very
Got
easy
it.
for you to remember, but
Hmm.
the best part is we will just create one store credit per customer for lifetime.
Okay.
Now, these store credits are not recreated. Aniket, when next time is going to return something, the same wallet balance will be updated. The same balance will be updated and of the same store credit, and then probably we can use it as a wallet. So, for example, we have here Mintra is one of the quite famous platforms here, right?
Hmm.
So, when people return something there, they very happily take Mintra credits because they know that in future they are going to buy, even if they don't need any product right away. Still, they happily take Mintra credits, even if and sometimes they do give you 300, 400 extra credits so that you can utilize it in the next purchase. And that way, people feel that you are empathetic toward them because it is easy to love a brand which loves you back, and this is
Got it.
loving your customer back.
Awesome. Awesome, got it. So really, like leveraging store credit properly is one of the biggest tactics to actually managing your returns and refunds effectively, right?
That's true.
So what all so in return prime specifically, right? Have you built a way to manage for brands to manage their store credit and to basically link up with the rest of the ecosystem? So how do you because store credit is something which can be linked with other places like a wallet or a loyalty program or a campaign or whatever, right? So how have you kind of integrated with the rest of the ecosystem to actually really revolutionize the returns experience?
Right, right. We believe in growing together. So integration and everything has been one of the most important parts for us, right? So we always look for opportunity for integration for all of these stuffs. So the first thing that we did was we didn't create store credit as our own store credit, but we created it as Shopify gift cards.
Okay.
So considering Shopify as a platform, so where
Yes.
we create all the gift cards on Shopify.
Hmm.
So you always have the access to it. You will always get to know what gift card is created and it is of what value. So in future, if somebody wants to use that particular gift card, and next time when they want to add the loyalty point into the same gift card, they can use the gift card ID and they can update the balance of the same gift card. And this
Hmm.
way, the customer will always have just one gift card. They can use it multiple times. They don't have to remember n number of things for that store. And probably the integration will become a lot easier because you are giving it back to the basic platform which people are using for their store creation, right? And if you're
Hmm.
giving it all the data back on that particular platform, it is easy for any other app to extract that data and then utilize it to solve a bigger problem and then add value over top of what you have created.
Hmm. Got it. So yeah, you can definitely, yeah, like for example, we can use that kind of data from Shopify to run campaigns on on WhatsApp and on other mediums to bring those people back and facilitate that retention. Right. If people are not exercising that credit or themselves in the first 30 days or something, right? So got it. That is how it actually, like, basically, because you're pushing all of that information to Shopify, it is very easily usable by all the other apps. Basically, got it. Yeah, that is a great thing to do always, right? Yeah, that makes the product, that makes things very sticky, and that really adds value in the highest way to merchants as well. Hmm. Awesome. Hmm. And overall, compared to like other, there are a lot of other return apps as well, like you mentioned, right? So how do you think differently at Return Prime, and what is it that is different at the end for a merchant about Return Prime?
So the first thing was we didn't perceive the problem on our own. So it becomes really bad when you start thinking the problem from your own assumption and then start building stuffs around it, because assumptions can be lethal at certain points. So what you have to do is you have to go on grounds, you have to understand the problem from its core, and then you have to solve it instead of building stuffs that you want to build in your system. Because I might end up building a number of things which is actually not adding any value for the customers, right? So any of the feature that Return Prime builds, we first take the feedbacks from our customers, do the survey, understand it the way it should have been built, collect all those informations, and then produce a mind map out of it to understand what needs to be developed. And that is why any of the features that we have developed, we have never gone back to pivot it, or we have never gone back to rethink that, hey, we missed this while building one of the features. That was the one thing. Again, Return Prime is built for the customers of our customers. So ideally, before thinking of our customer, we think the problem and the buyer's remorse. So if the buyer is facing a problem, that is where you want to reduce your, that is where you want to build a system to cater to your particular customers, right? So because if I'm thinking about the customers of my customers, I'm able to build something which my customers are also gonna like. So each and every feature has been built in a way where it is idiot proof. It is going to increase a number of things for you, where you don't have to be dependent on the system. The first thing that we thought of was simplicity. So if you look at Return Prime, it is so simple that none of our merchant ever came back to ask how to do this setup. Can you tell me how I have to do this setup? Can you tell me how this needs to be done? We never got such questions at any given point, because we made it so simple. We reduced the options because we knew what options needs to be created. So unnecessarily creating a number of things where they have to come and set up 20 different pages takes a lot of time, whereas with Return Prime you can go live within 5 minutes of installation, because most of the data is pre-filled into that. You just have to enter a couple of details and then you are live. You don't have to wait for the systems to get activated. You don't have to wait for someone to come and call and then help you explain how this feature works. Nothing has to be done in there. You can just add the app and then you can probably start acting on it. Apart from that, the way we have built things, for example, when we say it is a sales channel, the way we have built things, so we don't think it as a mere form again, where people just have to get their returns updated. Because let's look at from the operational side of it. So when the merchant actually manages those returns, they are using a number of systems. They are using a WMS. They are using one of the OMS for processing their orders. They're using a warehouse management system for keeping the inventory count. They are using a mobile app to get the sales generated, right? And then they're using chatbots to handle the chats, right? Now, if everywhere they have to go and separately update everything, that is not going to make any sense for them. And that is where we understood that this can only be solved if whatever happens on a system gets updated on every system. And that is where we started building integrations. We went bullish on integration just to solve the problem from the core. And Return Prime was the first one to solve the problem of mobile app integration, where if you'll see today, Return Prime is integrated with all the mobile apps in the world. So most of the mobile apps are already there, which people can directly come in. It is pre-integrated. So the best part is you don't have to ask for an API to get the integration done. It is already pre-integrated. You just install Return Prime and it will start working the way it should have been worked. So you don't have to now create a mobile view of navigation into your system. It will add a return button on the My Account page. Why should a mobile user enter their details like order number or email ID to return an item, right?
Mm.
They should directly click on return button because the order data is already there. You don't have to ask them for a number of things.
Yeah.
Make the process easy for them. So the first thing was simplicity, second thing was reliability, so that anything that is built you can trust on that feature, that if this feature has been built, this is going to add value to you. And the third thing was the support, the kind of support that our merchants need, because
Mhm.
there are a lot of times when things goes haywire and you want to understand from the experts that how this should have been done. So
Yeah.
our team is readily available at any given point to help our merchants out. Even if they have to go out and beyond their way, they would go.
Mm.
So these were the three things which ideally there was not a combo of it that was available.
Got it.
And when
Yeah.
Return Prime came, we have been on top of
Got it.
doing so.
Absolutely, and I can like 100% attest to that because I have seen it in action with like 10 plus merchants easily, right? Anyone who I ask, they are definitely like uh, they are blown away by the ease of use and simplicity and the way you are integrated with everything, right? And to top it off, if they have support, even though it is not needed, like, but if there is someone to help, that is always a plus, right? And yeah, and that has been the integration part has been a great experience for us as well. So yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Uh, Awesome. Mm, I think I have just one or two more questions for you. So at this point, I would ask the audience to start putting all their questions in the FAQ section, so that in the next half, in the next 10 to 15 minutes, we can take more questions from the audience, and both Sagar and I can address some of those things. Mm, cool. So the next thing which I wanted to understand about returns actually is how, like if a brand has integrated return prime as well, right? Like how do returns happen at an operational level? Like if a customer goes and says, I want to return it, right? How does that packet actually reach back to the brand into their warehouse, right? How does it happen operationally?
So, right, return as a whole process, how it works is when a customer comes in, it starts from the customer interaction. When a
Yeah,
customer comes in, they say that they want to return an item.
yeah,
It comes to you as one of the return requests. Now, there are different options created for our merchants. So, let's say, for
mm,
example, one of our merchants says that whatever the reason is for the return, I
mm,
want to get that item back and I want to refund my customer. In that case, people set auto approval rules. So, any request that is created, we will create one reverse waybill and the reverse pickup for the item. And
mm.
for that, we are already integrated with more than 50 logistic partners across the globe. All you have to
Okay.
do is you just have to put your own credentials into the system and the
Mm,
account will be activated for you. Now, as soon as it is approved, the item will come back to the warehouse from the waybill that we have generated, and we'll keep tracking it and then we'll keep showing it that it is on the way to the warehouse or if it has already reached the warehouse. So wherever the parcel is, we'll let the merchant know that this is the location, and the tracking numbers and rest of the details are also shared with the customers. So if your customer want to use it in for their reference, they can use it at any given point. They can see where the item is.
got it, got it. Cool. Again, the integration things makes it very simple because like whatever logistics partner is being used, effectively they can use the same one to actually facilitate the returns. Got it, got it. Hmm. Another thing which I wanted to ask is like now that you have built all this, you have built such a solid way to solve this problem, right? Like what is next in your roadmap? What are you looking to build in the next 3 to 6 months?
So ideally, there is still a lot to solve in this domain. This space is still not completely understood well, right?
Hmm.
So right now, what we are trying to do is we are trying to add as much value as we can. Integration is definitely one of the major parts of it because we have
Hmm.
seen that still there are a lot of things coming in where integration can solve a bigger problem. So we'll keep focusing on integrating stuff, but apart from that, we are turning it into a sales channel where returns are just one part of it and rest the whole product focuses on generating new GMVs, where we will manage return scores of our customers. So that, let's say for example, if as a customer I go and keep returning product on multiple stores, right?
Okay.
So I have a return score. My return score
Okay.
is low, right? If my return score is low, in that case, what people can do is they can come in and probably they can see what return score they have, right? And if the return score is low, you can set a rule that if somebody's return score is low, give them option of only store credit. Don't give them option of having a cash refunds, right?
Awesome. Got
So
it.
these kind of problems are something. And then one is where we are also building the returns centers, where people will be able to drop off the items, and this way we'll be able to increase the foothold of different merchants. That is a huge concept altogether, but we have been planning that from long point of time. And maybe in next couple of quarters, we'll be concentrating on building these features.
Awesome. Awesome. Very, very exciting. That is super exciting. Especially the thing about the credit score, where well, now that you're working with so many stores, you know which are those customers, right, who are going and harassing everyone, and you can kind of build a score and filter them out. That's great.
Correct.
Uh,
That is what the plan is.
Crazy. Cool. We have a question as well. It's from Swamijit. So the question is that Shiprocket is in the business of logistics management. How are you guys different from them? What extra features are you guys offering?
Yeah, right. So ShipRocket is ideally one of the logistic aggregator companies, right? So what we do is we are a tech problem solvers. Ideally, we work with ShipRocket. ShipRocket is directly integrated within Return Prime system, because you have to get the item back at your warehouse. Return Prime cannot get that back for you. What Return Prime can do is Return Prime can create an amazing experience for your customer to ask to get that item back from their house to your warehouse. We integrate ShipRocket into our system so that people can use ShipRocket as a logistic and then Return Prime as their whole returns management system. And then whatever happens there on ShipRocket will be updated on Return Prime. Whatever happens on Return Prime will be updated on ShipRocket. So ideally, it's not into same set of features that we have been providing, but again, we work together to solve a bigger problem.
Cool. Let's see another question. Thanks. Okay. Yeah, maybe you can feel free to add more questions in this section. So the second question is that our product is non-returnable. We only offer refunds or credit. How can your system be of help in this case?
So non-returnable as in, do you let the item come back at your warehouse? So ideally, there is a concept called green returns, where you don't bring the item back. You just give the refund or credit to your customers. So that can also be done again. We don't want to control anything for our merchants, right? So there are rules that are already created. What you can do is, if let's say, for example, some of your items are non-returnable, because again, return is a big system. There you have a lot of rules that you can create. You can create a rule that some of my products are non-returnable, and you have made those products non-returnable. For those products, people won't be able to raise a request. They'll get a clear message that you cannot return these items. But if you follow a process just like Lenskart, we have Lenskart who have a process that if they have shipped something international and there is a defect into it or the glass is broken, they don't get the item back and they process the refund. They say that you can buy a new pair from this particular refund that we have given you. And sometimes they give it in the basis of store credit. So you can ideally give store credit to your customers without even thinking about getting the item back. So these are already available.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So
so it's green return only. We can see that
yeah.
no returns, so you don't bring the item back, you just refund it. So it is already available. You just have to skip the part of adding your logistic partner, and again you just approve the request and then you just refund it, and it can be easily done.
Let's say in what geographies do you guys operate in, and where are most of your merchants located?
We ideally operate in all geographies. Return Prime, glad that you asked this question. So
Yeah.
Return Prime is ideally used in 68 different countries and in 20 plus different languages for now. The
Okay.
major place that we hold for now is India, USA, Canada, Australia. and we have a very good base in Europe as well, where the
Hmm.
major of our customer comes from Germany, France, and Italy. Apart from that, we have a very good hold in Southeast Asia and Middle East as well, and we have been looking at South Asia for now, from last couple of months.
Oh, interesting. That's great. Hmm. So what is the ideal merchant size that you cater to? Do you focus more on smaller merchants or like enterprise merchants or
Return prime is
mid
fine
market?
for all scales. So ideally, we
Okay.
do not segregate merchants on the basis of scale they are on, because
Hmm.
again, at the end of the day, some might start today, will become one of the enterprise tomorrow. So what we have done is we have created. So ideally, there is one more great thing that we have done. We have never segregated our features on the basis of plans. It is
Okay.
always segregated on the volume that you do. So the pricing of return prime was created in a way where even a smaller merchant can get access to all the features of return prime without thinking about paying extra just for the features that has been added. And while they grow with their volume, at that point of time they can upgrade their plans. So we plan to grow with them, because if you'll see, let's take an example. If you'll see Google, if you'll see products of Google, right? Google's product are built in a way so that people from all scale can use that, right? They don't restrict their feature for you. If you want to take just one account of, so let's say for example, for a startup, if you just want to take one account of G Suite, you can take that. If you want a whole bunch of G Suite account, you can take that as well, right? So they have not planned G Suite in a way where a smaller merchant have to go and buy their domain emails from a different vendor, right? You can use G Suite at a lower scale and at a high scale as well, and that is how return prime is also planned. So we don't restrict anything, and everybody can use it. Anybody can use it ideally.
Awesome. Yeah, that is a great philosophy. That is very rare in most of the SaaS apps. Right. That's great. It's great that you guys do it. Uh, Awesome. I think we are roughly reaching the end of our time for this webinar, and also there are no further questions. So I think we'll be closing in another minute. Overall, it has been really great talking to you, understanding your experience, understanding your insights about returns, and seeing how you have helped so many merchants solve these problems. It was super insightful for me, and I would urge everyone, all the attendees here to at least check it out and like convert your returns experience into a great customer experience and a retention experience. So that's awesome. Any closing remarks from your side, Saket?
Just wanted to give you one of the offers for the first 10 signups that would come up.
Huh.
So anybody who's signing up can use one of the codes on the chat called line chat 10, and they will get worth $100 of benefit from partners, and apart from that, free month of return prime uses at any scale at any moment.
Awesome. Looks like you got a personalized code for that's great. Uh, Chalo,
So
awesome.
this has been one of the great talks that we have done since last couple of days. We have not been into a lot of webinars from last 2 3 months. We have been busy building things, but seems like this has been one of the great days that we have done.
So great having you on our webinar, and as always, see all of you guys in the next webinar, which will be happening. I think in the next month, in the month of September, around the middle of September. So cool. Have a good night or good morning, and bye.
Have a great day, guys. Bye.